The final If I Didn't Know, Part 1 down below. It's hard knowing that something is not working. We didn't get married with the idea of separating. Nobody does. It hurts to have come to this point and that we weren't able to fix our problems when we were together. Now it's up to me to fix me to be a better man, better father. I can't go back to my old self. I have to keep on moving forward and change. What is also difficult for me is that I'm out of my home, my life, and that is hard to cope with. I'm staying at my brother and his wife's place. They've been really nice, but it's just not my home. I feel like somebody kicked the life out of me. I can't feel self-pity, I know, but now I have to find things to do, new hobbies, how to occupy my mind. 5 years of life have been practically gone, from one day to the other. Looking back, I don't know if I should have left my house. Had I given my wife enough space without pressuring her into fixing things right away, maybe I would not be out of the house right now. Maybe this separation had to happen and things would have not been fixed, at least myself, if I had not left my house. So that's for the better. Some days it's just so difficult for me to get a grasp of the situation and think this was blown out PF proportion. But the marriage wasn't working, so who am I kidding? This had to happen. Well, therapy went great yesterday, got my head messed up, and she gave me homework to work on myself. I'm also going to AA, which is helping not only with the drinking problem, but with dealing with changes and taking responsibility with my actions. Talked to my mom and sister yesterday and made a lot of confessions about things that I did wrong in the marriage. Well, she's disappointed in me with my lack of maturity, and for the first time in all of this she defended my wife. I have to be aware that if my wife decides to split at the end, big part of this will be my responsibility. And there's nothing I can do. Don't want that, but it is a possibility. Went to pick up my son at my in-laws yesterday, then drop him. Then my wife came straight from therapy and was her usual 50% cold and distant, which I get, and there's nothing I can do right now. She's hurt, disappointed, and still angry to a point, especially coming from IC. I said nothing and just asked her how she was, and then I left. This morning I went to pick up my son and I texted her that I would wait for them in the garage instead of coming up to the apartment. When she came down with my son, she looked at me, and I know that look, she was looking at me. Hard to explain with words, but so I was normal, didn't say anything to her, pick up my son and his backpack, and she asked me if we were going to my mom's for breakfast before dropping him for school, and she said yeah. Well, she wasn't as cold as the day before. I know that she was puzzled by me not coming upstairs. In the middle of breakfast at my mom, I was browsing my WhatsApp reading messages, and she was online, and then she texted me, just tell me when you drop him at school, which she never does because I always text her after I drop him. I don't know, CMOD. I just replied yeah. After I drop him, I texted her to let her know, and she was a bit more willing than other days. I don't know, should not make much of her coldness or openness. So, at the end I just told her have a good one. She said thanks, you too. Have to keep myself busy and work on me. But I can't just give up yet, I can't. Have to fight my intelligent battle for the woman I love. Keyword is intelligent, keep the distant and let her have the space but without being unavailable. I have stopped chasing her and have given her space to clear her thoughts, feelings, but I have made it clear to her that I love her, respect her, and support her decision to be alone right now and for both of us to work on ourselves. I have told her that I'm there for her and that I will fight for her and that I still believe that we can make it back someday. She has not made any decision regardless R or D. She's still undecided and still waiting in her love for me and the consequences of the outcome. I will not ask her to pause on her decisions because she hasn't made any yet. Yesterday was great. I was upbeat and positive. Today not so much. Here in my country the next days are holidays. We don't have to work Monday through Wednesday. As you know, my wife is going with my son and in-laws to the countryside to the farm they have there, something I used to do for 5 years. This is the first time in 6 years that I won't be with my wife for this time. Today it's eating me up, making me miss her more, and being apart from my son until Tuesday is also hard. Today I will pick him up at my in-laws and take him to my mom's. We are celebrating her B-Day today, since on Wednesday, when her real B-Day is, my son won't be here. Some days are better than others. Today has been a crappy day. Used to doing almost everything with my wife and son, and now having all this time is difficult. I will be spending time at my dad's this weekend since he had some surgery and could use each other's company. I will also be attending AA these days as it is a great opportunity. I know I can't give up, but there are days like this where I wish I'd be over with and could move on. Being separated with hope of reuniting one day, I can't move on yet. Hope could be a B, but this is what I believe in, even though these days make me feel even more separated to the point of feeling divorced, and that saddens me. Tomorrow will be another day. We are separated but feel so distant from her. It's only been 5 weeks. Every day is a struggle. We talked last night and I explained her the importance of having communication in the separation, every once in a while, just to see how we are and where are we heading. She said let's talk on Thursday when she comes outside the house. I said okay, let's go for a cup of coffee or dinner. Patience is the name of the game. Months or some years of problems can't be solved in a couple of months, I get it. So today I went to see my son at my in-laws' farm. Everything great with him. Got to spend several hours playing and hanging out. My wife was her usual cold and distant in these situations. I felt awkward since we used to come to the farm all the time, and this has been the first time I have come since the separation. As expected, at one point I saw a bundle of papers in her purse. I know, should go through personal stuff, but I want to know where I stand. I saw the list of my son's yearly expenses, which I saw 2 weeks ago, plus she added the mortgage of the apartment, the maintenance fee plus fumigation. There were also bills of grocery items that she has bought for him, plus doctor appointment receipts, plus her own individual IC receipts. So, my head goes south since this means she's seriously thinking the divorce option, right? Well, I have done the same thing. List of expenses plus save all the receipts I have paid for my son. Have to cover my $$. Maybe does she? At one point I ask her how she's doing. She says fine. I tell her, want to know something funny? My cholesterol in lab came out really low, so that's a good thing. She said, well, there's something positive. The separation, did you good? I said, well, it also means that little to no alcohol makes every level go down. She asked me about my university classes. So, I'm ready to leave, say goodbye to everybody. I tell my mother-in-law that I'm leaving with a knot in my throat because of my son. She just looks down and makes a gesture like, yeah, it's hard, or this is tough, I don't know. Grandmother tells me that we should talk about it, do something. Me and my wife, and that she's praying every day for us to get back together, especially because of my son. The aunt tells me that she hasn't heard anything and that my wife is very closed-mouthed and that I should keep the faith and make her fall in love again. Yeah, that's going to be easy, I say. Eve, everybody is kind of gloomy because of the situation. Expected. I felt like a ghost there. Why say bye to my son with a giant knot in my throat and bye to my wife? She said to call when I get home. It's a 2-hour drive. So, I leave and cry in the car for minutes. I felt like this was it. There was no love left in my wife for me, and that this is it. At least what she showed today. 2 hours down the road, lots of traffic. She calls to tell me how am I and where on the road I'm in. I tell her that there are a lot of cars and still about an hour from town. She said that she called because our son fell asleep and there was no way of me talking to him before bed because he was already asleep, and that if he got up, she would call me. That tells me to call when I get to town. I do call when I get to town. She asks me how was it. I said, well, lots of traffic. I ask her if we are still good for Thursday. We talked about talking some on Thursday outside the house. She says that she has a funeral to go on Friday and patients to see, so she will let me know how we can do it, that we still are going to be in contact these days. I say okay. When I get to town, she calls me to tell me my son was up. She asks me if I was asleep. I tell her no, I'm at the meeting. She knows. And she says, do you still want to talk to him? I said yes. I say goodnight to my boy, and then she says, I don't know what days are your meetings. I said, every day if I can make it. It depends when I can go. I tell her goodnight and that she looked good today. She says thanks, but I could feel her voice taking and liking he compliment, not a forced thanks. I noticed she's mostly a stone-cold distant tree when we are face to face, but over the phone, she's usually very nice and asking me things, and the tone of her voice is kind of sweet, like it used to be before, but not quite. So, there you go, that was my day. Bittersweet. At one point in the 3-hour drive I cried again, but for my boy, I really wish we could work it out. I don't want him to grow in the homes, and I really wished he will not blame us in the future if we split or feel like I abandoned him. If we split, when he grows and asks, why did you and dad split? What's my wife going to say? Because we drifted apart. Because your dad used to lie and wasn't honest. Because of his drinking. Because I've had enough. Didn't he try to change mom? Wasn't he willing to give it all? Didn't you try to work it out? I should not be asking these questions myself. And like they tell you one day at a time. We are both still waiting our rings 6 weeks into the separation. For whatever that means. 4 months later. Almost 4 months since I posted my story. Things have changed a lot. I started to detach since she asked me for a D back in late November. Painful as it is, I had no choice. I tried everything, and I mean everything, to make her change her mind with no results whatsoever. Important things that happened in these last 4 months. Late November I tracked her phone records, and behold, my suspicion was true. She was having conversations with her friend back in September and early October. These conversations escalated once I made the dumb mistake of leaving my house. Confronted her, she was puzzled as how I knew his number and said, oh, some calls don't mean anything. Months later she gave me another excuse of why she was calling him a lot. Excuse. She had an EA and she won't admit it. For some reason she stopped calling him early October. I'm sure they texted after that because I know his number, but even texting stopped by late November. While we had a cordial relationship throughout the separation, things have taken a turn for worse in the last month and a half. She decided she wanted the divorce because she wasn't happy and she didn't see herself with me happy in the future. She knows me and that is not what she wants. I'm sure having a taste of OM had something to do. She started to compare. Anyway, why stop trying to reason with her because she threw the dumbest excuses like, oh, but I know you and I know you like to come home and sit down and listen to music. You wouldn't tell me one day, let's go hiking. Haha. I was like, since when did you like going hiking? And there's so much we could do, but she wasn't interested. She rewrote history a lot, digging things from my past to throw at me. She at one point said that my credibility was down to zero because of my past of little white lies. Compulsive lying that I have managed to control and stop thanks to IC. I reminded her that her credibility with me thanks to OM was zero. She still denies having any E or P with him or anyone. She started to question my ability as a father, my responsibility. Wouldn't let me take my son to his godmother's pool because she didn't trust me. BS. I have never, ever compromised my son's safety or well-being. After I put my foot down, she started to back down. The original plan with the house was that I would give her the mortgage so she will continue paying it and she will buy me out. My take is $54K and offer to lower that down to $35,000. She can't pay me or won't pay me. She doesn't have the money and offer me $15,000. I said, there's no way that I will accept that. She said, why don't you ask your dad for the rest of the money? Imagine her nerve. And she wanted me to take money out of my savings to complete the down payment for my apartment. No freaking way. This woman wants to have her own cake and eat it too. Then child support. She wanted something like $800 for a 3-year-old boy. No frigging way. All this time. The first 2 months I was out of our condo, I still paid for almost everything but the food and my son's medical insurance and her things, of course. Then I told her to start paying electricity, maintenance bill. I would still pay the apartment, my son's school and half of his things, food, clothes, medicine, doctor's appointments. The last 3 months I have been paying over $700 counting the condo where she lives with my son. I cannot continue like this. We got to lower CS to $650, but still too much. I redid the numbers and drop it to $520. At the end I offer her $450 for a 3.5-year-old boy, which I think is even more than it should be. I didn't care, it's my son's. Long story short, my lawyer advised me to give voluntary child support and we did the legal procedure to offer $350 to the judge, which will be probably up to $400 or maybe to $450 that I offered. My wife, pissed, called me every name in the book. I took the high road. She's pissed because I won't let her have the apartment for $15,000, so she offered for me to buy her out. I did my math and it would leave me wounded financially, but it could be done. She hasn't said anything. So, we put the apartment for sale. Heartbreaking for me, I'm sure that it is for her, but it seems like the only logical solution right now. She's fighting me for stupid things. Yesterday I went to dinner with my dad and to my son. After 10 days of not seeing him, he was in the countryside with my wife's family. We had agreed on taking him back at 7, so at 7:02 she starts texting me to know what happened. I tell her, we are leaving the restaurant and on our way. 7:20 she texts me again to know what has happened. That we had agreed to take him back at 6:45, that it's been almost an hour and that I haven't had the nerve to even call her. 2 minutes later we arrived. I don't say anything, say goodnight to my son and leave. I tell you I still love her and love my son with all my heart. I really wished my family didn't have to break like this, but the selfishness in her don't let her see the hard times her actions and choices are going to put us through. I'm done trying to reason with her as I have to continue growing myself and improving myself for me and my son. All I will fight for now is for my son, and I will not step back into having a great and fulfilling father-son relationship with him because of her. I own my mistakes in my marriage and I have never denied them. I worked and still work hard on myself to overcome them, not making any excuses. I did this to myself and to our marriage, but so did she. She won't acknowledge her part on this though. About the friend, I really don't believe anything happened between them. I think he was a big emotional support on her and that she started to have feelings for this guy, and since the respect and trust she had for me was lost, she found an escape. And yes, my marriage was over before this guy appeared, but she made no effort, none whatsoever, to at least try to save our or fight for it. How could she have reconnected with me when she was emotionally invested in somebody else? I'm not excusing my drinking, which got worse as our got worse. She told me a few times to control it and I tried. But sometimes I couldn't and I would pass out and go to sleep. She got tired of that. I get that. I see examples of many couples here where the OS gets help for the S fighting an addiction, or at least tells that person you either get help or I'm out. My W never did that. Never. I am an adult and I am responsible for my actions. I didn't know how bad I was until I started IC and started going to AA. I can honestly say that 5 months later I am in a much better place right now. The compulsive lying has stopped, goes back to childhood issues and wanting to paint a better picture. The drinking is in control so far. Can I slip back into it? Sure, but at least I know of my weakness now. It did hurt my for sure, as did other things, and I understand she got to a breaking point and couldn't go further after only 5 years. I never got another chance. Did I deserve another chance? Maybe not. But for our son, he's an innocent 3-year-old boy, at least for him. We could have at least tried. If it didn't work out, then yeah, at least we knew we gave it all, but nope. She asked me out of our house for time, space, figure out her feelings, and long and behold, 5 months ago I should have known that once I was out of there I would have never returned back. Conflict avoidance got us to this point, unfortunately. You don't know what I will give to turn back time, but I can't. Learn from it and move on. I also forgot. I don't want to fight with her, really. I'm tired, and like you said, we have a son. I don't want anything more than the usual, 2 days a week, every other weekend. At first, she didn't want me to see him during the week and didn't want him to sleep with me during my weekends since I don't have my own place. Thank you very much. My lawyer had to fight for my rights as a father, and slowly we are seeing the light. I have never ever denied my son $1. Anything that my W has asked me for him I have paid, sometimes even without seeing the receipts. Unfortunately, the condo will have to go. I wish it wasn't like this, but there seems to be no way out of this. It might be hypocritical of me to call her a liar because of my past, but that doesn't excuse her of making stories up and lying about her extra income, lying about my ability and responsibility as a parent, lying about R with her friend. She even lied to her lawyer about some facts. I do have to co-parent, but she's making it very difficult. According to her, her therapist told her that when I bring my son back to the apartment I should hang around too long after because it's going to confuse him, so I leave him and then I have to go. She took her rings off before Christmas because her therapist told her that it might confuse my son, a 3-year-old boy. Come on, what does he knows about rings? At least be honest with me. I do want to have a good co-parenting relationship with this woman, but we both need to grow up and leave the resentment behind. Very hard and difficult. I resent her because I will miss out so much of my son's life, our fault, but her choice. She resents me well, because I have stopped being a doormat and stood up for what's fair. But yes, it's got to stop. It pains me to miss out so much of my son's life because of the divorce. The standard here in Moo Country is that 2 days a week and every other weekend. We split long weekends and Christmas and such. My son is the one thing my wife still has control over, and wants to control me through it. Of course I don't let her. I still pick him up every day to take him to daycare, convenient for my wife so she won't be late for work. I will continue fighting for more time with him. It shouldn't be like that. I know of a lot of cases where the H divorces and goes on to living the single life and spends little time with his kids. That is not me. I'm interested in dating for a long time. I want to strengthen the bond with him. I'm staying with my brother and she's making it very hard with excuses like he won't sleep with you in your brother's house because they throw parties. My brother is married and they do have get-togethers sometimes, not what I would call parties. He won't sleep with me in my dad's condo because he lives on a 36th flood and she doesn't trust the windows. Finally, she said if there are no other choice, he can sleep with you at your mom's, even though I don't trust her condition, she said. My mom had anxiety issues last year after her husband died of a heart attack. She's a lot better. In the initial agreement she said that my son wasn't allowed to spend the night with me until I had my own place. Crap, who knows when that is going to be? So my lawyer told her, no, that's not negotiable and he will spend time with me and spend the night progressively. That I believe is the best for him. Almost zero chances of R. I would give everything and anything to have my family back, but it is not up to me. She doesn't see herself happy with me, so there's nothing I can do about that. Positive relationship. We would both have to do our part into that. I'm willing. I like soccer and where we're supposed to enroll him in soccer, but with the separation and it's been complicated. I will definitely get him into that or karate by next summer. She wanted to get him into swimming for this summer. It's summer until May here in Panama, but all slots were full. We will get into that later. Another consequence of our actions that we didn't think. Camping. I would love that. Overprotective mother wouldn't allow it. See where I'm getting at. I know she didn't leave me for another man, and like I said, I'm pretty positive nothing physical went on. But while we were supposed to be working on the M and I was supposed to make all the changes necessary, it was all me. She had no fault according to her back then. She was talking behind my back to her divorced friend. As soon as she left the house she would call him, and then she told me some excuse about some friend of his in the hospital. Guess what? When I left the house the calls at 6 in the morning stopped, but she would call him in the afternoons and at night. Day I left, she called him. Day we talked about getting back, she called him. And boom, all of a sudden, she stopped calling him. This was not the cause of our failure, I know that. But it didn't help either. Yes, I neglected her, but so did she, and I didn't turn to any female divorced recently acquainted friend. But well, that's all in the past now. He needs me more and so do I. Selfish W wants to control me on that. Doesn't see the damage she's doing to our son. He's becoming super attached to her. He sleeps in her bed and doesn't realize he needs the guidance and role model of a father figure. She'll come around. I will not bargain my R with my son. I recognized my mistakes, my shortcomings, my errors, but she would have none of it. I'm no saint, no hero, but I was willing to move heaven and earth for them. You know, I went to MC as she suggested. She stopped after 2 sessions saying she wanted us to concentrate on our IC. I did that. She wanted me to change. I put all my weight into changing and it wasn't enough. It was all on her and finding her feelings. And I see she discovered that she didn't love me and that she couldn't go back to loving me like she did at the beginning because things happened. So, I tried and tried, but it was too late. She wasn't interested, so I stopped trying. Even after she said she wanted a D, I kept on trying and showing my weight with action. It wasn't enough. My W is a very proud person and inflexible. Once she has made a decision, that's that. I see people on here all the time giving their so chances to change to prove them wrong, and that's with much more difficult situation, and even then, with the so unwillingness to change. My W. Nope, you are done. I gave you too many chances. Conflict avoidance got us here, her not being very clear in her discomfort and me not being attentive enough to know what was happening and that she was unhappy. Everyone's tolerance level is not the same. My W's is very low. One thing I have learned in this 5 months is that no one is responsible of your happiness but you. My W's expectations of me and the marriage were very, very high, and I disappointed her, and therefore she wasn't happy, not in a 15, 20, 25-year marriage, but in a 4-year marriage. One day when my son is older and asks what happened, I will tell him the truth, my truth. I'm sure his mother will tell him the truth, her truth. But I will be able to look at him in the eyes and said, I really tried. I didn't want it to end the marriage to your mom, but she was done, and it takes two to make it work. I'm trying to keep amicable, but I will not be taken advantage of. That's why my lawyer suggested taking the CS to the judge. My wife will present her receipts and case, and I will mine. There's no way that a 3-year-old spends $274 a month on just food. Come on. And our country is much cheaper than the States. She has always said that I tricked her, that I sold me very well during the courtship, but that I was somebody else. She put qualities into me. Before we met, she had a 9-year R with a boyfriend that wouldn't marry her, and then she met me, and I always thought she felt like I was her knight in shining armor that saved her from ending alone, hence she put me in a pedestal. When we talked about a possible R last year, I said, let's give it a try. Let me try to make you fall in love with me again, like in the beginning. She would have none of it and say, but I know you and I know I won't be happy with you. And other times she said, I know how you are and you are not what I need or what I'm looking for in a person. Mind you, these after 5 years of this is the same woman that when we had our second wedding anniversary gave me a postcard say, every day I thank God that I have the best husband, friend and man with me, the perfect husband. This woman told me when I was trying to reason with her back in November, yeah, if we did get back together, what will we do? I said, many things, many different things about us that we forgot and things we haven't done yet. You know what she said. The problem X is that I know you, and you like to come home and sit down and listen to music. You wouldn't tell me, hey, let's go hiking. This woman has never hiked one day in her life. She doesn't have any hobbies. We got into a rut, I know, but an answer like that tells me she's not 100% up in the head. Plus, she made it seem like all there was to me was that listen to music. Big hobbies of mine, like I couldn't be spontaneous. Jesus. I own my mistakes. I did many. I had a problem with alcohol mainly the last year and a half into the marriage. I neglected my wife, but so did she. We focused on our son and forgot about us. I did lie to her several times, mainly stupid white lies. I'm dealing with that, and I see. I was having always been a good father, but a few months ago my W made me question my abilities as a father because I said I want to spend more time with our S. I want him to spend the night with me. She said, you have to prove yourself. Your credibility is 0 right now. You have to prove you have right judgment and criteria. I agreed at first like she was right, and then I out my foot down. I have never ever been negligent with our son. I had never had bad judgment with him. Nothing has happened while he's been at my care. You know, she wanted me to think I had been a negligent father, but deep down I believe she wanted to convince herself of this so her decision was justified. My W is a very intelligent, beautiful woman. She's an only child that had all the attention of her parents and grandparents growing up. She grew up in comfortable lifestyle where her dad had a good paycheck, very good. When she met me, she put all this into me and expected me to do very well economically. We haven't done bad, we both make decent money, but we have to work hard for it. 2 jobs each. I believe she's not happy about herself because she has to work so hard. Let me explain. She graduated top of her class in HS and in college. She is a physical therapist, a very good one. She does okay with working at the cancer hospital and has a very good private practice. But she has to work her butt off. So do I. She could have been anything she wanted. A doctor, anything medicine related. She chose her profession because she wanted something medicine related. When I have asked her why she didn't go into medicine, doctor, she said she didn't want to deal with shifts. I know doctors that work in labs or in clinics that don't have shifts, but as hard worker as she is, I believe she didn't want to deal with it and she preferred to have something less demanding and a husband to do most of the work. Reality is she has to work very hard to make the money she makes, and I think that has taken a toll on her. At a house, small child, and she got tired. Is this all there is to life? She expected me to take care of her, and for her not to have to work so hard. That didn't happen and she got frustrated. But she's frustrated with herself because she would have wanted a different life, different choice. Like I said, she could have been anything she wanted and she settled for a lesser, economically speaking, profession, and it has backfired now. That's why I'm the stone in her shoe. The reason she's not happy is me. With me out of the picture, she will find happiness in her mind. Because I really don't believe our issues after only 5 years are so bad that we had to divorce. But she's unhappy, so I'm the reason. Therefore I have to go. A shame really, because we could have at least tried to work it out. I mean, we have a small son. Kids are not a reason to stay married if you are not happy, but at least you can bloody hell try. All I can do now is work on myself. I have childhood issues that I have to deal with. I didn't know my father until I was 12 and other things. I have to better myself for me and my son. I have to be there every step of the way, always present. That is my priority and we will pull through. So yesterday I spent the afternoon with my son, very happy about it. We had a lovely time at the park. It makes me mad that W is throwing our family away because of what she feels. I will have my S this weekend so that will make for more bonding with him. The good thing about this whole situation is that now I appreciate the little things more. Every hour that I spend with him counts and I make it count. Have to let go of so many feelings and memories. It's just that in my STBX head she worked on the M for a long time, but it was in her head. When the crap hit the fan it took me by surprise. It really did, like it happens to a lot of men. It was her unwillingness to try to work on the M last year when everything went down that saddens me. I mean, kids are not enough reason to stay married if there's not love, but you could at least try, you know. I'm still grasping this concept of not being happy or nor being in love anymore. I was under the impression that your happiness depends on no one but yourself. Sure, your partner should be a big part of it, but shouldn't be just up to him to the guardian of your happiness. It makes me sad that I will miss out so much of my son's everyday life because she wasn't happy. I mean, she gets to have him every day and I don't. I get your regular every other weekend, 2 days a week afternoons. Nobody said life is fair, but nothing I did in RM made me deserve this outcome. Sure, I made a lot of mistakes. I own them all and I'm working hard to better myself. Not having my son with me every day just breaks my heart. Still have a lot to learn in this life. We communicate because of my son, but she's making this whole process more difficult than it has to be. Her initial proposal of visitation rights was just 18 hours a month. 18 hours. Of course I'm going to resent that. When I told her that I want for my son to spend the night with me on my weekends, she tells me that she has to see the visitation agreement first, which she knows because her lawyer, my lawyer, and her agreed on it. She's mad at me because I won't let her buy me out for just $15K and because I won't pay her the $800 she wants for child support. She made her decision on wanting to separate and then but she had a very different outcome planned. Now that I haven't bent over for her, she's pissed. The child support hearing is on the 25th of March and then the visitation rights hearing. I'm thinking that once he's older I will fight for custody 50-50. I refuse to just have my son less than part-time. I know mothers get custody, but I want to be a big part of my son's life, not just a weekend fun dad kind of type. I'm working on myself every day. I recognized my mistakes, personal ones and the ones I made in the M. I'm working with a therapist. I'm working on myself spiritually, something I had never done. I'm becoming a better me for myself and my son. My comment, I thought this would be a 2-part story, but the 3rd part ending will come today as well. Hope you guys are learning something new in this one, and we will continue our adventure in building towards a better relationship.